I had all these big arrangements in my head. An orchestra, a choir, a band, synthesizers. But I have only one voice, only two hands. But who knew that all I needed was a DAW? A magical world where you can record and then record over it. Use instruments, make instruments, add, remove, change, create, all to your musical heart's desire. But if you don't know what you're doing, you will get lost. Hi, I am CARO J. I'm a singer-songwriter and as of recently also a producer. I've decided to DIY my debut album. So I'm recording, producing and releasing 13 songs, a full album. From here, at least I'm trying to. And in this series, I'm sharing my experience and my process in doing so. So if you think that's cool, stay here. Today I will talk about my introduction to the world of music production. DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation, and that is basically exactly what it is. It's a workstation where you can make and work on audio, and it's digital. But very basically, you have different tracks for different recordings or different instruments, and you can manipulate those tracks, like use effects on them. And that way you can layer different instruments onto each other and create a composition and also create a final result, a mix and a master. And this alone, even just the part where you have different tracks, was life-changing for me. Because that meant I can record and then record over myself and finally start making the arrangements that I had in my head. And make them as extensive or complex as I wanted. My first dabble into this was GarageBand. And not the full version, that one is quite extensive, but the tablet version. There are not a lot of instruments and options on there, but that made it actually quite approachable and easy to get started with. And at that time, I could only record myself, my voice, my singing, with the microphone on the iPad itself. If you want to know more about my journey into recording my vocals, I have another episode about that. But at least with GarageBand, I could start building compositions. And the sound quality was far from good, but I could at least get them out of my head and share them with only my very closest friends and my parents. But this allowed me to play around with arrangements and compositions and write parts for instruments that I don't know how to play, like drums or violins, or I really fell in love with writing cello parts. But the first computer DAW, when 2 years ago I installed, was LMMS, which is completely free, which is why I chose it. And it's amazing, it has so many options and it's community based, but the interface is, it's free and community based. So it doesn't really help you out if you have no idea what you're doing, if you're really just starting out, which I was. So it was quite overwhelming, how many different options there were and how many words that were in there that I didn't know the meaning of. But what was really great about LMMS is the sound design options, and I really got into sound design using LMMS and playing around with creating different synthesizers. And I made Drown 'Em, Let Me In and What If in there. With the audio interface that I needed for my microphone, more about that in my previous video, came the light version of Ableton. I now have the standard version that I bought because I love it so much. And I took what I learned about arrangements from GarageBand and what I learned about sound design from LMMS to really get into learning, producing and mixing in Ableton Live. Again, also in this video, I'm not going too much into the technical details of all that, but I had some amazing YouTube channels that helped me a lot that I will link down below. So if you're interested in that, definitely check them out. Through this whole process, the hardest thing was getting myself to sit behind my laptop and actually do stuff. Because I had no idea what I was doing, and that was quite scary. I was scared to mess things up whenever I clicked a button or turned a knob, because I didn't understand what I was doing. It's quite complex stuff. I kind of had the same problem I ran into with recording, because I was already trying to make stuff that I was proud of, like the songs I already wrote. It would have probably been easier to learn and just play around, not having a goal in mind, and not having like songs that you already love and you want to do justice and not mess up. But with discipline and perseverance, I clawed myself up the steepest part of the learning curve. And from here, I'm starting to get to enjoy the view. That could be in a song. The song Let Me In went through all the phases of this process. It started as just a piano song with just a piano and me singing. And then I used GarageBand, what I was using then on the iPad, to just lay it all down and add some strings to the arrangement. Then I went to LMMS and created different synth sounds to better capture the changing emotions throughout the song with the changing soundscape of synthesizers. And then I exported like the recordings of the synthesizers that I programmed in LMMS to Ableton, where I added the strings with Spitfire Labs, added the vocal production and did the mixing. I guess from now on I will stick to Ableton because this process was far from efficient. But well, this is the journey that the song went through and also the journey that I went through. If you are not a music producer yourself, have you ever thought about what this looks like behind the music that you listen to? And if you do make music, do you recognize this process? Like, do you want to share your experiences, tips, or questions in the comments? I would love to hear them. If you enjoyed this video, please consider to subscribe, like, and leave a pineapple down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode of DIYing my debut album.